Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be starting a new series in the gym. Some of the athletes that I'm training. Today's going to be the Mahamed Aly MMA, not boxing, but it's going through what a session looks like for him. We'll have him talk a little bit, talk about his sport, talk about what he's trying to work on, but just kind of get hands-on with these guys, get a perspective of what their training looks like. So today we're going over kind of a half body session, or a full body session, if you will. Mainly lower focus with some upper body accessories. Starting out, run through a warm-up, which I'll describe, our main lifts for lower body, and then some of the upper body accessories I like a lot for them, especially from like a resiliency standpoint. It's a pretty tough sport. They get beat up a lot. So without rambling, we'll hop straight into it.
Yeah, so the goal here is to get stronger, faster, better every day. And as fighters, most of the times we neglect this, so having someone like Nick helps us to be more disciplined and understanding our body, because a lot of times we don't know what we're doing, even though we know the technique, but we don't know the muscle groups. We don't know where is weak, where is strong, and he's the one that's putting everything together, making sure we're always strong in bad positions. So it's been helping us a lot, and all of us, we've been getting much better and faster and, condition-wise, like everything is better. I don't have to think about it. I get here, I don't know what we're going to do, and I just follow what he says. I really trust what he says and his system, and, I'm getting much better, so. Yeah.
So going through his warm-up, really just trying to focus on some hip stuff. So starting with hip airplane, internal rotation, the external rotation of the hip, moving into this wall strider variation, doing more like horizontal movement, frontal plane movement. So think more abduction in the top. In that curtsy lunge, we're getting some lateral hip shift and more length into our glutes. So trying to mimic some of the demands of the hip in sport, but also just get hips ready to move here when we're ready to train. Throwing in some extensive plyometrics or like a low tier jumping. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We watch combat sports. There's a lot of change of direction. There's a lot of light footwork going on. So just trying to get them ready and better at managing ground contacts before we lead into a session, and also have some more intensive or higher intensity work. Starting out, main lift today is going to be a trap bar or deadlift. You can argue it's more of a general strength movement. It's kind of a hinge, kind of a squat, but on other days, we're going to have a squat pattern and we're going to have a hinge pattern. So it's kind of in the middle. It's a good way just to get good at producing force. It's very general, but what they need is pretty general, generally speaking. So pairing that with a drop jump, really high rate of force development. So just trying to redirect the eccentric force concentrically in a really fast period of time. Bring these two together more from a time management standpoint as opposed to a post-activation potentiation. But yeah, main lifts for today are basically trap bar deadlift, drop jump, and then we'll go upstairs. Next thing's gonna be reverse lunges. Just trying to generally train some lateral hip shift of the front leg, hip extension of the back leg, trying to check some boxes for hip function. Still trying to load it. We're not trying to make it be like a remedial exercise. So trying to load, get strong hip extension, get strong with some lateral hip shift. They're like more of a lengthening glute on the front leg. Couple sets there, then we're getting into some upper body stuff. So some cues for the lunges. I love putting Mahamed in front of the mirror. You can get a really good idea of that kind of visual representation of where your body is in space. And trying to get the big toe, the knee, and the sternum to line up to get some of that lateral hip shift on the front leg. A lot of guys don't want to drive that front knee out. Other thing it's going to be doing is cueing him to get more weight into the back leg. A lot of guys try to dump over into the front leg to avoid getting hip extension on the back leg. So again, those kind of the two key points. You'll hear some cues I was using, but the main thing is just a visual representation. Get in front of the mirror for now. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think guys make? You think it's like making their weight training look too much like sport? Do you think it's thinking that they should just like keep let nagging injuries, go on? They can't fix them?
Right. So I think fighters usually will go, they're going to do a lot of weights. They're going to load a lot of weight, but they're going to be very slow. And some other guys, they're going to run, they're going to do the cardio and the sprints and stuff, but they're going to be very weak, so it's very hard to find an athlete that's going to be, everything. They're strong, but they're also fast. They don't get tired, and so that's the biggest challenge in our sport, so having someone like Nick, you're going to do your deadlifts, but then you jump. And then you have to do your jumps and stuff. So you have to generate power, but you still use the speed, so you're strong, you're fast, and you can move, and also you can land. A lot of people hurt their knees, when they land. So that's another thing that we do with you that I don't see elsewhere.
Yeah, just being better overall, strength, power, everything, longevity, feeling good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Very much.
All right. Let's work. So next two things are going to be chest supported row, or we had to actually adjust it. It's going to be a bent over row here, but generally speaking, just a horizontal row pattern, get the shoulder blades moving into more retraction. A lot of fighting is being kind of protracted. Everything's forward. So being able to have the variability to get into retraction is going to be very good for shoulder health. Also just being strong there for like grappling purposes is really good. So doing this, getting into retraction. Then we'll go over the shoulder press next. So wrapping up the last exercise, we just did essentially a line press, Viking press machine up there. I like it for a few reasons. One, really training the shoulders and the serratus as we go through upper rotation of the scap, which I think is very important for combat sports, just overhead sports in general. So training that, focusing on ribcage position, making sure that we stay stacked and we're not going through some sort of extension pattern to kind of circumvent getting overhead. So hammering that, core position, full upper rotation, getting strong in that position. Nothing super fancy to it. So just to recap, a little bit of hip warm up stuff, some jumping stuff, trap bar deadlift, reverse lunge, chest supported row or horizontal row, and an overhead press. So pretty basic when you really break it down into its parts. Try to keep it that way, even for us professional athletes. You see a lot of fancy shit online that I think is kind of eye-washy. A lot of them will benefit a lot from just getting better at the basics. We can get very specific and we'll kind of follow this a little bit more if you guys want to, especially as he gets closer to a fight. And as some of these guys get closer to their season, we'll kind of get into some more, specific like for sport training. But right now, generally getting strong in important positions, building a capacity to get specific where we need to. And as always, if you guys want to see more or have any specific questions, please let me know. We can get into literally whatever you guys want to. So if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, comment below what you want to see next, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.